Hey, happy Sunday, everyone. Or, well, maybe Monday, depending on your time zone or when you happen to be watching this video. Today, I want to talk to you guys about the Swarm event that is going to be starting on Friday, August the 28th. I know the campaign events typically aren't that difficult, but I wanted to do this video to share with you guys my thoughts on the Rogue Agents trait and who would be good to use for that event, whether you're an early, mid, or late game player. And also go over some math that I did on my soon-to-be famous spreadsheets that look like they're done by a 12-year-old. So in the first part of this video, we'll be going over the usable characters for the event, and the second half of the video will be going over how many shards that you can expect to pull, given 3 different situations, which is going to be very similar to my Emma Frost event in terms of layout. I also want to preface this with saying that my math bit will be presuming that you can finish the hard mode difficulty of the event, and not doing anything regarding the easy or the medium difficulty. But you can use the worst case scenario on my spreadsheet to give an idea of how many shards that you might still be able to collect in other modes if you're that early of a player. I think most people should be able to unlock Swarm even if you're an early game player, as long as you start leveling and collecting some of the event characters for that. But without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so we're here over into my roster. We're sorting by Rogue Agent as well on the side, which is very handy to be able to see who is of specific traits. Now for this event, which requires the Rogue Agent trait, it is a bit, the selection of characters actually isn't as great for some players, as some of the other events have been. So there is quite a few characters, but admittedly that some of them aren't very good. But I do imagine that this is so that, whether you're an early game, mid game, or late game player, that there will be someone that you can use for this event. So particular standouts for me, which is at the top. So Ghost Rider, a really good character. Obviously the ones that I have really high power, but I don't expect everyone to have these. So Carnage, I guess I'm a little bit in the way there. Carnage here, Proxima Cull, Venom, Scientist Supreme, even Punisher. If you're a newer game player, you can use him. And there's some other ones down the list. Now, so it depends on where you're going to have a lot of these characters, but there are characters like Mordo, who is generally a very good controller type. If you're leveling up X-Men, you do have Wolverine, Sabretooth, which isn't, he's not an X-Men character, but he does have good passive regeneration. There isn't any healers, though, really, with the exception of Scientist Supreme. So if you are needing to use a healer for this event, I don't suspect it's going to be super challenging, but again, we don't really know because the event hasn't gone live, and I'm just sort of guessing that, I've never really used a healer for a lot of my events. I've kind of just powered through them. There is a couple of standouts, though, that I would do in terms of building a team for this. So for me, I was looking at, so what kind of synergy is there with some of these characters? Now, there is a few supernatural characters. So for that reason, I would maybe consider characters like Mordo and Ghost Rider. So those two together. And then you, of course, have Carnage and Venom. Now, unfortunately, you can't use Symbiote Spider-Man, who, of course, is really great when paired with the 3 of them. But even Carnage and Venom together can be still really good. So if you do have them unlocked, I would recommend those. If you have the Black Order, of course, I would consider using them as well. But, I mean, that's a very late game kind of set of characters. So if you're in the sort of early to mid game and you do happen to have Venom and you have happened to unlock Carnage, maybe through luck, then I would consider using them. And then, of course, Ghost Rider is a bit of a maybe later mid-game character, so you might not have him, but definitely Mordo is a great standalone character as well. He has some really good control value with his special on his blinds and his heal block, and really he's a great controller, so I would recommend using him if you can. Other than that, of course, Punisher is available, so a lot of early game players should have access to Punisher, so if you need someone to use for damage, then he is there. Otherwise, there is a couple of standouts depending on where you are in the game as well, like Taskmaster, really solid standalone character. And there is some questionable ones, though, but Scarlet Witch as well is okay if you're going to be using that supernatural combo. There isn't a full team of synergistic characters here, so there's a lot of broken teams. There's Scarlet Witch, Mordo, and Ghost Rider who are part of the supernatural team. And then there's some Hand, which again aren't very good. There's a couple of Sinister Six. There's Vulture down there. And then there was Rhino up here and Swarm, although, this is an event for Swarm, so you're probably not going to have them unlocked. And then there's a couple of Mercs and a couple of AIM characters. So it's a bit of a mismatch. You're not going to have a full team, so you're going to have to combine maybe 2 different teams together in order to make a viable team for this event. So yeah, I would definitely recommend characters like the Supernatural. They're very solid characters. And then maybe some of the Punisher you know, a lot of people have Punisher up for one reason or another. He also is really good against villains, so if there happens to be villain characters in this event, then he should do pretty decently in terms of damage. That's personally what I would recommend. There, on the lower end of the list here, as you can see, there's some sort of trashy characters. Scroll this down a little bit further. So, but these are sort of characters that you might have if you're a very early game player. So I wouldn't recommend Ravager Stitcher, but you might be able to use like Hand Sorceress. I wouldn't recommend Ravager Boomer either, but you know, if you don't have access to too many characters, Elektra, I believe you start with Elektra, and then there's like Korath, Ronin, maybe, and then Scarlet Witch. You know, they're the Crossbones, Yondu. There are some sort of early game characters, but you know, you're not going to have a full team for this, so you're going to have to kind of use what you have available. But I would consider combining some of these synergistic characters where possible. So, you know, Wolverine and Psylocke could go well together. Mystique and Sabretooth, they're both on the same sort of team. Scientist Supreme and AIM Assaulter if you happen to have AIM leveled up. And then, of course, my favorites, again, are going to be Carnage, Venom. The characters probably who I'm going to take in are... I'm probably going to use Carnage, Venom, Proxima. The ones I have the highest, of course, is probably going to make it easier. And then probably Punisher. So these 5 is probably what I'm going to use. But, you know, you should really think about these characters now so that depending on where you are, if you haven't leveled some of them up, that you can get to this. Because it's kind of a ragtag event, to be honest. It's not quite clear-cut. You know, 5 characters from the same team that are going to make it super easy to get through. So definitely consider some of your characters now while you have time, and that way you can plan ahead to see which characters that you want to use together and who you have unlocked. So, you know, obviously I don't know what everyone has, but there is a couple of standouts, which I mentioned earlier. So hopefully that you guys maybe have some of these characters unlocked, and you can consider this for the event, and that'll help you pick up shards from this and hopefully get through the hard mode event, because there is 27 free shards that are available in the hard mode events that you do when by the time you clear all 9 of the event levels. So I hope that some of this helps. We're going to jump over onto my spreadsheets, and we're going to go over sort of some of the expectations that you'll have for assuming that you can clear the hard mode event and how many shards you can be expected to pull out of that. So let's jump over there. Okay, and here we are over onto my Excel spreadsheet here. We're going to start off at the top. If you guys have seen my Emma Frost video, then you might notice that the colors and things kind of look quite similar. I tried to keep a similar structure, although admittedly it looks a bit different, and my spreadsheet game isn't always super amazing. But hopefully this makes some sense for you guys, and we'll go over it together, so hopefully clear some of this up. So starting at the top left here, we do have the free shards that you get from hard mode. So this is assuming that you cleared all 9 of the levels, 1.1 or 1-1 all the way to 1.9. And you do get 2, 2, and 5, 2, 2, and 5, 2, 2, and 5. So these are the shards with a total of 27 that you get for clearing all 9 of the levels. And this is what you get for free. So this is a pretty good way to get to unlocking Swarm, because he's going to be a 45 shard unlock, which means you're only going to need 18 more shards to get him unlocked. Now, if you aren't able to do hard mode, you know, don't worry that you're probably still going to unlock him if you are able to farm the medium difficulty. I'm not too sure about easy. It's been a long time since I have, but I would suspect that you could probably still unlock him if that's all you're able to clear, but you might not get too many shards after that. So it is going to be 2,000 fragments per orb. Of course, I'm just putting this here for some of my math reasons for my spreadsheet. And so this is the available fragments per day on hard mode. So, and this is the energy cost. So each of these levels are a total of 100 energy if you go through all of them, and the fragments that you get per day vary. So this isn't the total amount of fragments you can collect, because I know that on the level itself, it does say how many fragments are left to farm, and I don't think I've ever maxed out on that, so we're not going to really include that at this point, but they do start at 500, 600, and 700 when you go up the difficulties. That's in terms of the energy spent and how many fragments you get back to that. So if you were to farm all 9 of the levels, that you would get a total of 5,400 fragments after spending a total of 900 energy, and so this is a total of 2.7 orbs from clearing hard mode daily. And so that's if you manage to do all that. Now, in order to do that, you're going to need to figure out where that energy is coming from. And so that's why I have that down here. And so down here in the green, this is the energy generation. And so this is your sources of energy per day. So with your free-to-play energy, and this is the same as your regular campaign energy, you're going to get 288 per day. And this is 12 energy times 24 hours. So that's a total of 288 there. You do get 3 of your free refreshes. So you're going to get 80 event energy from that for a total of 240. And you can get a total of up to 400 cores if you do your 50 core refreshes. I think you can do this 4 times before it starts going up to the 100. And for the purpose of this spreadsheet, and for the purpose of the video, we're only going to be talking about the 50 core refreshes, you know, which is realistic for free-to-play players, and that's really important there. So I have never gone beyond the 50 core refreshes, and you'd have to be, I wouldn't say whaling, but spending a lot of cores for this event if you really want those extra energy. So this is a total of 928 energy here if you do all 4 of the core refreshes. So 288 plus 240 plus 400 is 928, and so we'll see why that's important when we go back up here. And so I separated this very similarly to my Emma Frost video. If you guys have seen that before, then I have the sort of the best case scenario, the middle ground scenario, and the worst case scenario. And so this is based on how many power core refreshes you do. So we'll start here at the top, and this is the best case scenario. And we're assuming that this event lasts for 15 days. This might vary because the Squirrel Girl event was 15 days. I don't know if Swarm is going to be 15, and I'll adjust this accordingly and you know, do an update in the description and in the comments section if this does end up changing and we don't get it for 15 days. But all the calculations here are assuming that it's going to be the same amount of time as we got for Squirrel Girl. So energy spent total, this is assuming the 928 energy, and that's with all of your refreshes here. I'll zoom in a little bit so it's a bit easier for you guys to see this. I'll scroll this over here. So this is the fragments gained total by spending all of that energy is going to be 5,560, and that's all of hard mode plus 2 attempts of medium, because I think given the amount of energy spent here, you're going to have that extra 28 energy, which I guess you can sort of spend on the medium difficulty final level, which I kind of rounded up a little bit here in terms of the fragments. So not super, you know, it's a little bit, it's going to vary a little bit here, but not too much. So total orbs for that kind of fragments though is 2.78, and then we multiplied that times the 15-day event, and we got 41.7 orbs. Now what's important here is that I estimated this is the amount of shards that you're going to get, and this is including 41.7 orbs opening plus 27 from free shards, which is over here from what you get for clearing the hard mode, and that gets about 252 and a bit of shards, which you can't really, you know, you need to have full amount of shards, sorry. But this is the estimation. Now this is estimated at 5.4 shards per orb. Now this number, people are going to get on at me with this number. I have seen this number floated about over since November, since the Heimdall event, and this is when you're going through the stats, through the percentages of the orb, that generally you're going to land about 5.4 shards per orb. You know, given some of the RNG, given some of the percentages in there, that over the course of opening a lot of orbs, that's roughly what you're gonna get. Now, I did find, I don't have an exact source for this 5.4, but I have seen it floated about. Unfortunately, I didn't save my source, so you know, feel free to get on me at this, and if it's not exactly 5.4, I know it's very close to that number. And so this is where I came up with this 252 shards. This is if you're doing, you know, spending 200 cores a day on the event, that this is likely what you're going to be getting. Now this doesn't account for, you know, really good RNG where maybe you performed better than this and, you know, you got some really lucky pulls in the middle, and this also doesn't account for really bad luck, which is usually typically when you're just getting 2 shards on the side, because you get at minimum 2 shards or 2 to 4 shards per orb, but normally over the course of a lot of different orbs you're going to be pulling some in the middle unless you're super unlucky. So this number here could be a little bit down or could be a little bit up. So this is kind of the average you're going to get based on pulling that many orbs. Now, for the middle ground here, we do have, this is assuming 2 power core refreshes. So this is, again, about 200 extra energy per day that you're going to be getting through spending only 100 cores a day. So again, energy spent is a little bit less. It's 200 less than the top one number, the first best case scenario. And so the fragments gained is a little bit less. And so using 200 less energy, you're only going to be able to really farm hard mode 3 to 9, and so you're going to be missing out on those last 2 levels. So total orbs daily 2.29, and then multiplied it by 15, you're going to get this 34.35, and then doing the same calculations from above, you're going to get an estimated shard of 212 and a half. So you see that those cores do make a little bit of a difference here. You're getting about a difference of 40 shards or so. But you are within reach to unlock at 4-star. Now, I have seen people who have told me, you know, that they weren't able to get 4-star unlocks, but, you know, I think you must have, you know, either not really spent many cores or got really, really bad luck, unfortunately, and this does happen from time to time. Now, the scenario 3, which is the worst case scenario here, and this is assuming that you're not doing any power core refreshes, you're only using your free energy. And so this is 528, again, 200 less than the above one at number 2, and your fragments gained is 3480. Total orbs 1.74, and then times 15, you're getting just over 26 orbs, and then times that by 5.4 and then adding 27, you're getting roughly 168 shards. So you see, even in the worst case scenario, you're just shy of getting a 4-star unlock because you need a total of 180 shards. 180 shards for 4-star. Just put it there for information. And so if you do want to push it, and you know, if you're trying to get that 4-star unlock, then you would not unlock 4-star character, then you would need to put some power cores into it to realistically get that. Now you could still get 4-star swarm even if you don't use power core refreshes if your luck is really good, but you know, if you don't want to rely on RNG and luck, then I would recommend putting a little bit of power cores into that. In terms of medium difficulty and easy difficulty, I don't have the calculations for that, but it's obviously going to be less than this because you're going to be acquiring less fragments from the other levels because they're not worth as much. So it is going to be less than this, but you know, he is only a 45 shard unlock. So unfortunately, you won't be getting the 27 free. Let's zoom out. The 27 free shards here, which you do get from the hard mode. You won't be getting that if you're only doing the easy and medium difficulties. But otherwise, I still think that, you know, you should be able to get a handful of orbs, and there is a good chance that you would still unlock them regardless, as long as you have the characters available to use for the event that you can, you know, get through the levels and start farming shards for that. So I hope that some of this helped in order to get you guys thinking about what kind of shards you should expect from this event. It's very likely that if you are doing hard mode, that you will get, you know, anywhere from a high 3-star to a low 4-star. Now, if you're putting in cores, of course, the likelihood of getting that is increased significantly. And if you're doing four refreshes a day, then you're likely to get, you know, almost close to a 5-star. Because I've seen people get 5 stars from events, you know, even without paying. So it's very likely that you could with some good luck, but you're gonna need some good RNG on the orbs in order to get that. So I hope some of this helped, and let's jump over to the outro. So as you can see, usually the shard accumulation isn't that bad when it comes to campaign events, but whether or not you want to put the cores into the event is going to matter how much you care about Swarm, I guess, or what kind of red stars you might have pulled for him. Admittedly, it's not as important as it might have been for, say, Domino, who ended up being a legendary requirement, so I wouldn't fault anyone for just doing the bare minimum farm. Also, the usable characters for this event in the Rogue Agents isn't as great as some of the past events, but hopefully everyone has some usable characters for this event, or at least have had some time to look at your own roster to start thinking about who you might want to develop to get this event cleared and farmable. I hope that some of this helped, and I just wanted to share with you guys my thought process on the event so we can all maximize the amount of shards we want to obtain for Swarm, which again starts on Friday at the store reset time. But that's all from me for today, and if you guys enjoyed this video or found this informative, then please smash that like button down below and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And also feel free to get at me on my Discord channel or even through direct messages. I'm always available to help if you need it, and you can find all that information in the description below. Of course, until next time, stay safe, and I'll see y'all later. Boylon signing out.